At the end of the day, if I closed my eyes, you guys wouldn't be there, right? And it's the same thing that's happening here. If I don't look at any of the numbers or any of the stats, then none of this matters.
Welcome back to Gamified, the show where people who actually work in gaming break down the biggest stories in the industry one game mode at a time. Every topic has a format, every panelist gets a clock, and no one gets to be boring. This is episode 161. This week, Forza leaked and broke every single record. Anyway, Sony kills PC ports, Nintendo ignores AI, and investors love it. And the Saudis have spent $38 billion on gaming. We're going to ask if that was a good idea or a bad idea. Up first, PAX Players and Community Plays. He builds it at the intersection of culture and collectors through Wolves Co. and Kaizuna. It is my boy, Peyton.
What is up? I'm filling Chris Heatherly's shoes, at least in the frame, and I'm very nervous for that.
I'm sure you'll do great. And up next, from print to protocol to podcasting, the future of gaming, she went from PC Mag to Blockworks to building content at Veda. It is Kate Irwin.
Hey, glad to be the honorary token female here. What's up, guys?
The rare token female at that, so I extra appreciate it. Up next, from federal filings to founding a game company, he traded the SEC for startups, and now he runs Andromeda, the panel's resident regulation to revenue pipeline. It is Michael Christine.
Hey, what's up, guys? Happy to be back. Been in Asia for a while. Let's go. Let's get this done today.
Jet lagged, but still going to carry the panel. And he is the beast behind Battle Trade, where you can trade with 1,000x leverage against your friends. He's the botter in your Twitch streams, the best friend at your wedding. If your name is Sam, it's Dub.
Oh, dude, I love you, dude. Great to be here. Thanks for not showing up, Koji. Love you too, dude.
And up next, Data drops in digital collectibles. He came from Magic Eden and Soar Esports. He now runs the Digital Collectors Club. Last episode, he brought the receipts showing that shutting down gaming is dying narrative. Jesus, I can't talk today. It's Knock.
Hey, that 2 week off hurt Sam, it feels like, but I feel well rested. I'm ready to go, baby.
Dude, still hungover from 2 straight days in the car, making it back home. But last but not least, if it's happening in gaming, his platform probably posted it first. He runs games.gg, the go-to for gaming news before it hits your timeline. It is Omar.
Good to be back, and a lot of new updates. I can finally tell Knock to shut the up and actually make him shut the up.
I look forward to it. Let's get into topic number 1, Forza Horizon 6. Did the leak actually help? Are you buying or selling the leak that happened? Forza 6 leaked before the launch. The whole game was out there, and it was Microsoft's nightmare scenario. But the numbers came in. Early access hit 172,000 concurrents on Steam with only the $120 premium edition available. That's more than Forza Horizon 5's all-time peak of 81,000. The full launch day for Horizon 6 was 273,000 concurrents by the end of the week. That had crossed 300,000 concurrents at peak, putting it in Steam's top 5 most played games. That's also the highest concurrent player count for any Xbox Game Studios title in Steam history, beating Halo Infinite. And this is a game that was available on Game Pass day 1. These are people that chose to buy it on Steam anyway. So the question: the leak generated massive headlines, free marketing, word of mouth, obviously a demo for whoever was willing to pirate it early on, and then the game delivered. People absolutely love it, and now the franchise is breaking every single record it has. Buy or sell that this leak was actually the best thing that could have happened to Forza.
Buy hard.
Oh, we're buying.
We're buying.
I was going to do buy, but I'm going to say sell just to be controversial here.
Dude, I'm not being swayed. I stand by my buy.
I'll do sell so I don't leave my boy alone.
Thanks, my dog.
Michael, why are we buying this? Is it a good idea? Should I be telling everybody that for marketing they should be leaking their game a week early and just being like, oops?
I mean, maybe, because obviously human psychology is when you say I'm not supposed to have something and you give it to me, I'm gonna pay attention to it, which is effectively what allowed this content to spread like wildfire. People thought they were getting a game that, obviously Forza, huge name, huge brand. It's not like some indie company trying to make a name for themselves. It's like a pretty segmented brand. And seeing them hit 273,000 concurrent players on day 1, that's more than 3 times their peak in Forza 5. I just think it makes a lot of sense. So it's not whether or not the leak hurt. It's kind of like what mechanism related to the leak caused those numbers. And you can argue that it basically gave so many streamers the ability to create content for 5 days. The game is actually very well put together. It gave all these people an insight into the game before they bought it, where before they were just watching a trailer. And with that, it drove 273,000 people to actually buy the game. So buy the $70 game, which should end the debate at all if it was a bad idea or not. We've seen other games do this. Obviously, the trailers for GTA 6 were leaked back in 2022, I think it was. And then obviously when the official trailer came out, it like broke all these records, etc. We see it with things like Half-Life 2, which leaked their source code. This was like over 20 years ago. So this leak to me was the best thing that could have possibly happened for them. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more quote unquote leaks from other similar entertainment industries.
Omar, you said you're selling, but I have to imagine if I go to games.gg right now, I'd probably find a news article talking about the Forza leak, if not once, but probably 2 or 3 or 4 times. Why are you selling here?
Yeah, I mean, I just think the leak itself isn't why the game is doing the numbers that it's doing, right? At the end of the day, like, sure, any publicity is good publicity, but if the game ended up launching and it was, average at most, I don't think anything would have changed, and you probably would have reflected on this and say, oh, maybe the leak is the reason why the game didn't do so well. The news that I was getting, or like the thing that stood out to me the most, was like how aggressive they were with the ban. I think some dude on Xbox got like an 8,000 year ban or some shit like that. So I think that was the headline. It was like Forza bans Xbox gamer for 8,000 years. But I mean, yeah, leaks happen all the time. I don't think this is why Forza Horizon 6 is doing so much better than Forza 5. I just think the game's a lot better. So yeah, I don't really think it made much of a difference. Obviously, it gave them some spotlight, but not really the biggest indicator.
Kate, I'm going to you next. Why are we buying this one?
I think we're buying this because it's inherently a good game, right? Like, if this was like some atrocious crypto game with like 10 tokens that was made using like Unity stock assets, like we'd be having a different conversation. So I think, again, like, because the game itself is so high fidelity and appealing, it's like, hey, that's good news for them. But it is contextual. Like, something getting leaked isn't a guarantee, but it does generate a lot of press, potentially a lot more press than it would have gotten otherwise. Journalists love leaks. That's like the entire media industry is like built on leaks, essentially. So leak stuff to your favorite journalist. But that's why I think they got a lot more media coverage out of it probably. So it's probably helping with sales, actually, because those articles can have a longer tail.
Yeah, it certainly is one of the only reasons I started paying attention to it as a guy that doesn't obsess over racing games. Dub, you mentioned the Gundam. I've seen some videos about Gundam being in the game. Is this UGC? Is it just a collaboration? What's going on there, and why is that maybe the reason for leading to the sales?
Well, it's the coolest thing I've seen in a racing game in a long time. I mean, let me race a Gundam in every game going forward. Otherwise, I'm not going to be there. I mean, I thought it was a brilliant hook. It's the very first media that I saw for Horizon 6. And like, if I had an Xbox and all the stuff ready, I would have been hopping into it right away. But like, for me, backing up to the leak, I think this gave a massive boost to the entire numbers in the launch here, because everyone likes to feel a little dirty and to feel wrong, and like just gave everyone that opportunity to be like, oh, I'm going to share this with my friends and we're all cheating the system, and like, without that, I don't think it would have gone to like the crazy numbers it hit. I think it's like at least a 10 to 30% boost on the start out the gate compared to not having that. And to your original question, like, I would be telling a bunch of people to do a leak. I think we're going to need a ton of plumbers on here because we got a leaky season ahead of us, and we're going to get so tired of it. It's going to become a pretty bad meta,
Wow, the fact that nobody dropped "shut the fuck up" on that one is crazy. I'm going to you, buddy. Okay, let's imagine that we're about to launch a new game. Dub and his other consultants are all telling you gotta leak this thing for the attention that you're going to garner. But then don't we find ourselves in a world where like, oops, like every single popular game is now leaking because it's the only way to market. We've seen this play out before with other like trend driven marketing. At what point is it cringe, or it's counterintuitive, or it's not going to work the same way?
At every point, if you're not delivering the best version of the game you've ever delivered, right? Forza, the new Forza is like, by all accounts, the best Forza that's ever existed. It's not just about lap times. They have a bunch of other things in the mechanics within the game. It's more about car culture and showing off the cars that you build. They have fun additional elements for people to play the game. I think that this is a death sentence for basically any team who hasn't delivered the best product they've ever shipped. And in the case of Forza, the reason why I'm buying is because they happen to have delivered the best version of Forza they've ever delivered. People saw it early. People started talking about it. They had 4 or 5 days of it with being in the news cycle and on the algorithm, on the social media platforms before the game released. People had social proof that the game was interesting, but more important, they had visual proof that the game was good, or at the very least looked good. And I think that helped to accelerate purchases. This game would have been successful without it, obviously. It's as successful as it is now because it had a couple of days in the spotlight due to this leak. But if you're a team that is delivering something that's not here, you're going to be in a ton of danger. And we saw this at the recent Game Awards, right? It wasn't quite a leak, but it was a surprise announcement out of the way. Doesn't bother me at all. We had a surprise announcement of a title. That game launched and completely flopped and was shut down within 30 days of opening. I think they delivered a great game. That great game got some additional exposure prior to launch that it maybe otherwise wouldn't have. And by the time the game was ready to go, people had already seen the proof that the game was good. Sort of circumventing that pause period where people wait a week to decide on whether or not they're going to make a purchase. It's a good thing, but it's a death sentence for bad games.
We got to shut the fuck up from Omar and from Michael. Omar, I'm going to you and then to Mike.
No, I mean, he said what I said, and then he just added but I think the leak also helped. Like, yeah, the game is great, therefore the game sold, therefore the game is doing really well on Steam. Like, stop there. You don't have to say but then the leak also, like, there was plenty of gameplay, like trailers and footage, and people saw how great Japan looked in the game. You didn't need the leak. Like 99.9% of people did not actually download the leak, right? Like, it's such a minority, but then that became the news piece. So again, going back to the point, the game's great. Just shut the fuck up. Stop there. Knock.
It's like Shay flopping. It's all over the news. You know what I mean? And so in terms of the gaming news, though, for like, I think it's like worse. It's not worth the risk, right? So when it comes down to the whole files being leaked, one of the things that kind of came out of it was that there was a lot of cheaters at the front end as well too. So you're possibly ruining your whole economy. And now you're having to fix this leak as well as be able to do live service really quickly, because they have all the files to be able to create mods, which the Gundam one wasn't a mod. That was one thing that I did look up. Was like, wait, is like Gundam a mod? But no, it was actually something to it.
I thought it was too.
Yeah, I thought it was too. And then the other side of things, I just think it's like not worth it to be able to also crap on the fan base that has also got you here. That's like the $120 premium people that are paying for a week early. Now everyone gets it for 10 days early, and now possibly ruins your whole economy whenever it comes out, unlocking all the cars, unlocking all the credits. It just makes it very difficult, right? Like having a 2K player having like 88, 99, and just all the basketball references because it's Western Conference Finals, baby. OKC versus Spurs. I'll just STFU myself.
Downloading some sketchy game though, like downloading a leaked game file in the year 2026 is not the same as it was in 2005. I don't know, at least in my opinion. We have everything on our computers now, like all our banking and stuff, all our passwords. And it's like, would you download some like leaked game file anyway? I don't know. It's not the same as what it was. It's like higher risk these days, in my opinion, to do that.
It's
just
only
wait for one of your friends to download it
gigabytes,
first.
Kate. What else could they possibly sneak in there? It's like with the files so small.
Trust me, bro. It's Forza 6. Trust me.
Listen, I want to bring this back to, I don't know, the only guy who played the fucking game mode. The question wasn't, was the game going to be successful? Regardless, the question was, did the leak help? And pretending that the leak didn't help was stupidity. It was always going to do well. It was always going to perform well, but it performed as well as it did because of the leak. Make no question about it.
If you had to put a percentage on it, what do you think? So, okay, 300,000 concurrents over the weekend. What percentage do you think was from the leak? Do you think it would have been 200,000 concurrents without the leak?
I think yeah, probably closer to that number. I think generally speaking, amplification on a good product is probably like a 30 to 40% buff if the product is good enough. So yeah,
this one had a 3.4x from Forza 5.
Yeah.
If you don't think the leak brought in all of the eyeballs, like that's the reason it went viral. Don't get me wrong, the diehard Forza people would have played the game still, but I believe this brought in so many fringe Forza players that might not have played the game since Forza 2. You know what I mean? So people watched the clips because they were like, yo, I got this leaked game. And everyone's like, oh my God, it leaked. Let me check this out. If it didn't leak, they wouldn't have watched the clips. Some people would have, but a 3.4x on day one versus the last game's peak, guys, let's be for real. And not only the peak of concurrent players, they bought the game. They bought 273,000 people bought the $70 game. So it wasn't just peak player highs. It was they absolutely crushed it. If that's not the leak, then I'm gonna sell you a video game in a random download, and trust me, it's Forza 7.
The fact that they were able to break the record with the $120 copy is insane,
and it was available on Game Pass day one
for free. And it also makes me think about all the people that say that they shouldn't be selling Grand Theft Auto for more than $80. Like, bro, you should sell Grand Theft Auto for $200. Let me get early access for like $500.
Break records.
Yeah, they would still sell out. It's crazy. All right, we move on. Topic number 2: Saudi Arabia has spent $38 billion on gaming over the past few years. The Saudi Public Investment Fund has committed $38 billion to gaming through Savvy Gaming Group. The acquisition phase is essentially done, it seems like, whether they want it to be or not, just because there's not very much else to acquire, according to Chris Heatherly, friend of the show. They bought everything that there was to buy at scale, is how he put it on LinkedIn. So the next phase looks a little bit different. Smaller studio acquisitions tucked under existing properties, minority stakes in publicly traded publishers, acqui-hires of development talent. The EA partnership pulls PIF's broader gaming allocation just past that $38 billion mark that we mentioned a second ago. And this is for a foothold in an industry that's still figuring out its next growth phase. A lot of people are saying that they might have bought the top here. And I'm curious, from your guys' perspective, we have $38 billion being essentially pumped into gaming at a time where it's now sort of declining. So what's your sentiment score from 1 to 10? 1 being you think they absolutely blew this money, it was a terrible idea. 10 being this is the best way they could have possibly spent it. Is this a smart long-term play in gaming, or did they overpay for a bunch of pieces that don't fit together and they will never get this money back? Sentiment score first, then we'll go in for the deeper thing. Michael, kick us off. 1 to 10. What's your sentiment score?
For gamers, I'm going to give it a generous 4. For their financial portfolio, however, I'm going to give it a 7.5.
It's directionally a 7, but financially a 5.
For gamers, I think it is a 4, and for them and their pocketbooks, it's probably a 6.
Give it a 4 across the board, big dog. It's terrible.
Dude, it's a 38 out of 10 for me, dude. That's a lot of freaking money, man. Like, that's great. Like, no matter what, that's 38 B's, dog. Like,
no matter what? How does your brain work, brother? Omar, over to you, bud.
I'd probably give it a 7. I do think they overpaid on EA, but yeah.
Wow, just EA, Omar's cherry. Let's actually go to you first, Omar, on this one. Explain how you justify a 7 here. Whenever I think if you were to say, okay, all these companies are back on the market today, they're probably able to get them for less than 30, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, people can say what they want to say, right? First it was sports washing, now it's gaming washing, whatever. I just think acquisitions in the gaming space haven't necessarily been amazing in the past. I mean, you look at Sony and Bungie and whatever's going on over there. So I think just objectively looking at it, obviously EA is huge. There are a lot of titles. I just think they were way too attracted to the concept of EA, maybe because of, the FIFAs in there and the World Cup that they're trying to go for in 2030 or whatever the year is. I just think it makes sense because it puts them on the map, and now they can kind of, hopefully, if some good games come out, they can recoup some of that investment. And then, what I can tell you from living in the region is there's a shortage of, I'm not sure if I can call it the ecosystem, but like the ecosystem doesn't have enough local game developers, if you know what I mean. So like a lot of people, like most development studios happen to be like Ubisoft setting up a headquarter in Dubai, or XYZ just opening up an office. And Saudi specifically have always been very aggressively for, you have to be based here, you have to be a Saudi company, you have to be a Saudi studio. If you want to unlock all of these other opportunities and all this other money, you have to be like a Saudi entity. So I think them going out and aggressively like acquiring all these companies makes sense with their strategy. I just think they overpaid, because you and me and everyone in this room know that EA doesn't cost 38 fucking billion or whatever. So yeah.
That's
Peyton, what do you think? Why is Omar overvaluing these?
No, I also agree with Omar's. Like, you bought it like peak hype, right? Like, you're talking about like movies, IP crossovers, the whole wave's currently happening right now with like Mario, Super Mario Galaxy, all of these like Nintendo crossovers, Uncharted having a movie. Like, it's in everybody's mind that like gaming is a huge thing. But the only thing is that the builders are cashing out now. So you're trusting the next generation to be able to take upon these companies and then be able to compete against social media, prediction markets, AI for attention. Bro, you're like buying BTC at 120K. I'm not gonna lie right now. So like over the next few years, like you are going to just having to be trusting the next generation to be able to pick up this very highly competitive environment. And also all of us work in the games industry. We know how hard it is right now to even just see how like a game being successful. And so I think that they overpaid. They should have probably did a little bit more grassroots thing to be able to have, like, I think there was a topic on Gamified a few weeks ago talking about what would you invest in? Would you do like a AAA studio or indie developers? Give a lot of money for indie developers that are willing to have that money to go to Saudi, like Omar is saying, and set up a Saudi studio to be able to try to build out something that's going to work. So, and I know that was an opportunity for a lot of people, because I know some people that were getting offered that type of money too. So,
we know some people that have moved there full time. Omar, you wanted to jump back in, then I'm going to knock.
Yeah, I mean, again, like just put yourself in their shoes. Are you willing to bet on small indie studios that might come up with an Expedition 33, but also might completely flop? Or would you rather buy the guys that make FIFA every single year, and it's going to sell X amount every single year, and the sport is going to be around? So again, just like EAFC, whatever, shut the fuck up, Top. So I think just put yourself in their shoes. The deal makes the most sense as like a safe, like almost low risk deal. I'm just saying, if it was like cheaper, it would be a no-brainer. But because it's so expensive, it's like, what are you guys doing?
Right, exactly. That's mostly what I'm saying as well too. Is like, it makes sense, everything that you're saying, Omar. It's too much money, in my opinion.
Yeah, there seems to be a situation with them where it's like 8 guys trying to get into the club with 0 girls, and so it's like you gotta pay the bouncer. There's no free lunch whenever that's the circumstance. Knock, I'm going to you.
Listen, I got a friend who started golfing last year, and he decided that he needed, Hanma 5-star irons and Scotty Cameron putter and all of the best equipment in the world. And we got out there on the tee box, and he goes to swing a club. And he clearly never swung a fucking club before. And just because he had the financial means to buy it, doesn't mean that he should have done it, or that he should.
Why are you talking about Andrew, Knock?
So yeah, I think, look, I understand the direction, and I actually like pretty much agree with everything that Omar has said. From a directional perspective, this makes sense. And Omar gives me the STFU. But I think from a financial perspective, this was very clearly, hey, name a price, we'll get a headline out of it, we'll buy a bunch of studios that are quite large, and we'll hope that some of these things work. The other piece is, buying things evidently is really fucking easy, right? Running things and doing things with the things that you've purchased is a lot more difficult. And I think, do you have the gaming muscle? Can you manage a portfolio of gaming studios of this size? Do you know what it takes to run one studio or one team the size of Scopely, let alone 5 of them? I think the answer to those questions is what we'll see play out over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. But the question of, was it a good buy? Probably not financially today. Does it make sense why they targeted the companies that they did? Absolutely. And would they ever go for an indie studio? Absolutely not. When you're dealing with tens of billions of dollars, it doesn't make sense to spend 30 or 40 or $50 million here and there, because the size of your portfolio is going to be 100 companies, not 6.
Mic drop.
Omar with a temperamental back and forth there. Kate, I'm going to you next. How do you even begin to assess whether or not something like this is a good spend of money or a bad spend of money? I mean, realistically, it's going to take us a decade to figure that out, but where do you stand?
Yeah, I think it is a long-term game. Investing in gaming in general is a long-term game. It's always a multi-year, very long bet on the future of gaming continuing to become more and more important. I think about this in the broader context of like the creator economy and Hollywood and AI and video games and sort of where all these things are converging and going. So investing in video games specifically is interesting because that is a suggestion that like this format and this medium is going to continue to be extremely important for many years to come. I wonder, right now it might, to an outsider's perspective, it might seem kind of like a mercenary play, like this is purely for cash, for money, for gains. But I also wonder long term if this is going to involve some kind of cultural trickling effects, and like I just don't know what those would look like. I think some journalists have written a lot about the ways in which that is concerning to them, especially considering the contrast to the West. So super interesting stuff, but we'll see really how it all pans out. Saudi Arabia is also investing a lot in Hollywood movies right now, and they are trying to pull people from the West to do their movies for them, but a lot of folks don't want to be attached. So it's very interesting. We'll have to stay tuned.
It is. Michael, I'm going to you.
Yeah, so to me, as like a financial move, this is a 7. And I'm going to say the acquisition of Scopely alone makes this a 7. So they paid about $4.9 billion in 2023 for Scopely. Scopely just hit $10 billion in lifetime revenue in 2024, making it the second largest mobile game publisher in the world. Monopoly Go is basically a revenue engine. It's the fastest growing mobile game in history. They hit the 5 billion mark in just 24 months of launch. So to me, right now, just if they wanted to sell Scopely, they could probably sell it for 3 to 4 times of what they bought it for and be very much in the green. They also added Niantic Game Division. They added, they have Moonton pending. Now they're minority stakeholders in EA, Nintendo, Capcom, Embracer, and Nexon. And so if you think that over the next 10 to 15 years, these companies as a diversified front isn't going to make them their money back on this, I think you're out of your mind. And then you have to kind of look at the overarching portfolio. The games division here makes up less than 3% of their entire portfolio. Most of their money, I believe, is in Uber and Lucid Motors, which we'll see how Lucid Motors keeps doing. But overall, this is just a play to diversify their portfolio, and I think they did it really well. So it didn't really matter when they bought. It just matters that they have these minority stakes and that they have a property that's literally a revenue machine that probably, if they hold it for another 2 years, they can probably sell it for maybe 7, 8, maybe 10 times what they bought it for.
Yeah, 38 billion, I think, is roughly what they're paying just Bryson DeChambeau annually based on that Live Golf acquisition. So compared to that, it makes total sense. Let's go over to Peyton. Peyton, what do you think about this one?
Like for me, it's like I feel very much like they overpaid. I disagreed with Michael in terms of that side of things. Mostly just for the fact that like a lot of these, for me, the gaming industry is like competing with a lot of different types of markets now, not the gaming industry that we like known and grown up with. You're just competing with everything. Social media, prediction markets, AI. I think AI is going to be huge. But like now, Michael breaking down some of the stats as well too. Like it does make me think like there is probably a lot of that IP and all that stuff that they can own in terms of data. And then I also we're going to talk about Nintendo if we get to it at the end of the type of conversation. And like I think IP is going to win when it comes down to AI and all of that stuff. So now they own a lot of the IP that's going to be, we'll see where regulations hit and all that kind of stuff. But I do feel as if anybody that's acquiring IP right now will really grow in the future.
Omar, I know you want to jump back in, and so does Knock.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think my favorite part about this whole thing is how the Western world has been having a meltdown since the deal was announced. Because we got some interesting requests to like publish PR about how I can't remember the name, Representative something, someone from like some government position in the US was like fighting with 40,000 something petition signers to save EA from this like terrible deal. And it's like, do you know EA? Like, have you met EA before? Do you think EA is like a good guy and they're like getting in bed with a bad person? Like it's not what you think it is. But yeah, a lot of it is bigger than gaming. And I think it's just funny to like watch from the sidelines because when you know both sides, it's just really entertaining to like just watch the meltdown.
Kate says, I've played The Sims, so I know. It's
The microtransactions that they put into the game. I mean, EA has been that way forever, where I don't know. It's hard to know how much value really comes from the IP versus just like their ability to just like max extract at every turn with expansion packs and cosmetics that cost $30 and all that.
Yeah.
So
and Ultimate
True.
Team and everything else.
Tell us why EA is the bastion of moral superiority. Go ahead.
Oh, I won't be doing that. I'll tell you that much. I am the number one. I'm the founder of the EA hate club. Listen, I've been playing the same version of Chell for 25 fucking years, and if anything, it's gotten worse. Listen, one of the things that I think is difficult to maybe swallow for anybody looking at this from the outside is, if you're looking at the spend, you cannot separate this cost of the acquisition and the revenue that these companies drive in rationally, because there is no brand to direct this awareness to other than maybe the entire nation as a whole. But you look at a company like Red Bull, they're not making money on soapbox racing and having a man jump out of a really high hot air balloon out of the upper atmosphere or anything like that. But what they are doing is they're saturating the Red Bull name into extreme sports. The problem with an acquisition like this, if you try to remove the cost of these things and you don't look at it from a financial perspective, is it doesn't make any fucking sense in the world, because the Saudi sovereign wealth fund doesn't need brand saturation. What they need is a return on the investment on these assets. So I think it's an insane thing to say that we shouldn't be looking at the price and they'll make it up 10, 15 years from now. You have to look at it economically. And at the end of this, I think Peyton makes the most sense here. It was, by every account, an overpay.
It's interesting to hear you guys say. How does Omar have so many of those? I thought there was a limit.
Lem just keeps on refreshing it because he's getting sent money on the back end.
That's Saudi money, baby. It's that Saudi money.
I personally don't look at this as an actual like fiscal investment. Like I don't think of this as being like, oh, they're VCs, they've got to get their 4x. I always saw this as they want a foothold in culture. Michael, is that the appropriate way to think about it, or is this just a traditional investment?
This is, in my opinion, it's a traditional investment. They have 1.15 trillion under management. This is a $38 billion acquisition. That is like putting a drop in a bucket, if that makes sense. The fact that they were able to diversify into this industry in the way that they did, that's the win. And I think it was Omar, maybe it was Peyton. No, it was Peyton who talked about IP. This IP is going to just keep growing in value, which means their investment holding is going to keep growing in value. So then when they want to spin this part of the investment off, somebody's going to buy it for a lot of money to then increase their own assets under management in their portfolio. And that's just how the world of finance works.
I'm giving Kate Irwin the last word on this one, then we're going to move on.
I mean, it's a challenging thing to talk about more broadly with Saudi Arabia and their human rights violations and freedom of speech and issues around all kinds of different things. So, there are articles out there about, them potentially using this as a way to try to change their image, not only just get away from oil financially a little bit, but to also use this as an opportunity to rebrand themselves with the younger generation. So, I think a lot of what's going on there is problematic, but it is what it is.
I appreciate you bringing that up. It didn't feel like we could go the entire conversation without at least putting that on the table somewhere. All right, we move on. Lord of the Rings. Finally, potentially, maybe kind of getting a game that fits their brand and image here. Warhorse is taking on Middle Earth. Amazon canceled another Lord of the Rings MMO, which was the original topic here. But then they announced yet another. Well, actually, this is the second time. Excuse me, I have to read the whole thing. That I've learned to read for a very long time now, but you wouldn't know it. The first one died in 2021 whenever Tencent bought Leu. This one was announced in 2023. They never showed a trailer. They quietly shelved it after Amazon gutted its games division last October. But here is the twist. 6 days after Amazon killed this MMO, Warhorse Studios, the Kingdom Come Deliverance team, which is what we're showing you here, is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, as well as some Shadow of Mordor gameplay. So this is not the game itself that's going to be released, but it maybe gives you a hint of what they're good at making. These guys announced that they're going to be making an open world MMO, or excuse me, Middle Earth RPG, not an MMO, an open world RPG from the studio that just shipped one of the best reviews RPGs ever. And the corporate structure makes it make a little bit of sense. Embracer bought Middle Earth Enterprises from the Saul Zenitz company. Jesus Christ, I can't say any of these words. They've now spun up Fellowship Entertainment as a new subsidiary, housing Warhorse, Crystal Dynamics, 4A Games, and the Lord of the Rings rights all under one roof. So the IP holder and the developer are in the same family for once. The richest fantasy IP on Earth finally has a developer that maybe makes sense to it. Originally, again, we wanted this topic to be about, okay, the MMO is canceled. What do you guys think they should do with this IP in gaming? We saw one of the worst games ever released under an IP with the Smeagol game that we'll, bury and leave over there. But what's the word for the new way they're approaching it, and how would you like to see them be good custodians of this IP? Let's go around the horn first. Peyton, I'm gonna let you start off around the horn.
Okay, for me, it's hope.
God, smart.
Omar,
Nemesis.
Max Extract.
Sorry, Dub saying smart in the dumbest way possible is just so fucking funny. The word is fit.
The word is earned.
Peyton, I'm going back to you, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also just a brilliant PR move to always just cancel a game and then have somebody pick it up right away. The Lord of the Rings is just going to keep on doing this. Hey, we're never going to get one for like 20 plus years. It's very funny. I think, going to the address the MMOs, I think MMOs are pretty much a graveyard. So I think Amazon cutting in, and they also just learned their lessons with the MMOs that they've done in the past, is I don't think there's really a loss there. I think there's always been this kind of hype cycle and this hope cycle for MMOs to have something. And I know one of the people on this panel right now is Sam, looking to pour hours and hours into an MMO. And I don't think it's going to be coming, to be honest. I think there is going to be something, but also it's going to look totally different. I think Warhorse, though, being the ones that are going to pick it up, I think that's why I said hope, because, Kingdom Come Deliverance is one of those really cherished games from an RPG perspective, and also has really good, let's just say, story. And you want somebody that has that type of dialogue, that immersiveness to go in and take something like Lord of the Rings. It has a beloved fan base, and both of those fan bases, I think, really respect that IP. And so I think it's a good fit. And I think that's where Michael's going to go with it. But I think it's the right studio, right genre, right IP match. And so at least on paper, it looks good from a super team perspective.
Dub, why is this one smart, buddy?
Yeah, it's wicked. It's wicked smart because they're basically they saw how much the MMO was going to cost, and taking the cheaper RPG route with known vets. Hearing the name Crystal Dynamics is good to hear too, because they're working on the Tomb Raider series. They've done a good job on other games of this format. It feels like a good step to testing to see if the investment for an MMO later down the road makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's probably the best custodian of the IP. I mean, I'd like to see some riskier plays too. Maybe try a friend slot thing. No one sees that coming.
Or Lord of the Rings.
You never know, dude. It could cook, And I want to see riskier plays, but at the same time, this is
the riskier play was making a freaking RPG, a game about Smeagol. Who the frick made that decision, dude?
Facts.
They were making the movie,
game.
They're just matching the narrative, the hype cycle.
Knox, tell you to shut the fuck up. Knock, go ahead.
Dude, the word is fit, as in Warhorse is a perfect fit for building this game. I mean, the legacy of this company and some of the major Czech gaming companies all came from 2K Czech, which was picked up by Take-Two Interactive. But, you had the Mafia series come out of Hangar 13. You had Arma and DayZ come to the guys at Bohemia Interactive. You have now Kingdom Come from the team at Warhorse. All of those guys are one way or another connected to 2K Czech. They deliver quality games, and Kingdom Come Deliverance is not a big leap away from a Middle Earth game. It's basically just going to be a reskin Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is fine
100%.
by me because that game was fucking incredible. And if you give me that game, but now with an IP that I love, I think it's going to be a ton of fun. To me, it feels like the right team to take on a game like this. I don't know if you've ever watched Shadow or played Shadow of Mordor, but like if I can get another RPG that is even half as good as that with modern graphics and modern fidelity and modern technology, I think we're going to be in for an absolute treat. For me, this is a layup. This is the best possible fit for this type of IP, especially coming off the backs of the success of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 last year. This is such a good thing for this IP. I think that they're going to be great stewards of it. We'll have a fun game to play. It's going to be a blast.
Peyton, I see you want in aggressively. I will send it over to you, but I just want to add the additional context. Lord of the Rings Online is still a thing. And they had 4,000 concurrent as their high peak, so not very good, but that was 6 years ago. They have about 1,000 online right now, and it seems like about 1,500 people is the peak each day. That isn't a ton.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad to see them giving up on the genre too, whenever presumably they would have a built-in audience that's already sort of adapted to that and would be very excited for this. Over to you.
I also think that like that MMO is great. Like I have watched like a few resurgences happen over the years with that Lord of the Rings MMO. And so it's also, if you bring up that MMO, it's also going to probably fracture that one, which is also a little bit sad. But regardless, I think when it comes down to it, I just wanted to add on to Nox, and then I'll shut up and then use my STFU on dub again. But like one of the things that I would say is that I think this match for Kingdom Come Deliverance and all that stuff is like probably as good of a match as like Divinity Sin goes into the oh my gosh, I lost it in talking to dub. But like Divinity Sin is just as good as going into Baldur's Gate 3. I think that like type of Larian Studios taking on this into this is the same as Warhorse taking on Lord of the Rings. And with that, I will end and relent. Thank you, Labs.
Let's go over to Kate. Kate, I don't see this as maybe a foolproof as other people are saying, just because I've talked to a few people in recent times and they've all told me working with IP is terrifying. Like the amount of hoops that you have to jump through in order to sort of make this work, it could be actually damaging to the product. If let's say we're just reskinning Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, it doesn't necessarily mean the game is going to be as good as that plus Lord of the Rings characters because of all the hoops that you have to jump through. Are you just net positive on this, or is there a chance that this is actually pretty risky?
I think it's hard to know. Of course, it sounds like the studio is very qualified for the gig to handle this kind of a game. But yes, IP adaptations are always hard because you get pulled in different directions sometimes. Like I know with the Amazon Lord of the Rings show, like I think some people loved it, some people hated it. It's like very heavy on the CG, totally different to the movies, the Peter Jackson movies, and to the books that you might be sort of comparing them to implicitly. And so we've seen this with Harry Potter, right? Like Harry Potter has kind of been sold and repackaged to death at this point, I would say. And they released that trailer for that Harry Potter like reboot spinoff show or whatever with young Harry with like a new actor. And it was like pretty controversial because people were like, why is Daniel Radcliffe equals Harry Potter, not this like random little kid who's like been recast in the role? So I think like sometimes that can be hard when you're trying to target those existing fans who maybe have made attachments. So, you know, that's one thing to consider, but there's also like Lord of the Rings is a massive universe. And so I think there's a way for this to work where they go in so many different directions and they don't necessarily have to have the exact same characters that you've already seen. It could be more expansive. It could be different. Hopefully it's not too Smeagol related. But yeah, it's hard to do. I mean, Lord of the Rings, like Tolkien doesn't have, obviously given his not being alive, but like he doesn't like the creator of something And the way that the creator's work gets sort of sold and repackaged with or without their consent, like it becomes a dilution. It has a dilutive effect when you don't have the original creator working on the project. So
Okay.
I think that's something really that can be hard with all these spin-offs and adaptations. It starts to just actually kind of decrease the value of the IP in some ways, because the selling out by just maximizing the person's exposure to the IP, like I just hope that they're very conscious of protecting the IP and trying to do something that is vaguely coherent to the books. But we'll see.
George to be spinning in his high rise every time he sees another Star Wars release. Let's go over to Michael, then to Omar.
Yeah, so as I stated before, the word here is earned. And the reason I say this isn't because Warhorse is a credible studio. The reason I say this is Warhorse could be one of 3 studios on the planet that can actually deliver a fun Lord of the Rings style game like this. And we're going to start with the receipts. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 launched in February 2025, 1 million copies in the first 20 years, 2 million copies in the first 2 weeks, 5 million copies in the first year. The original Kingdom Come Deliverance in 2018 is sitting at about 10 million lifetime sales. So that makes Warhorse the only studio currently shipping 100+ hour grounded medieval RPGs at AAA scale that actually understands how to grow an audience between sequels. There's that. Most studios that attempt something like this usually end up going bankrupt, and they don't understand the totality of what it means to actually make a game like this. But sales don't have to be the only argument here. The arguments are also texture. So Lord of the Rings has been adapted dozens of times since Peter Jackson, and almost every single adaptation has been an absolute nightmare. Amazon's what was it? The Rings of Power. That was like $1 billion production just to end in a CGI filled slop that nobody really liked. It's actually worse than AI slop, in my opinion. The Hobbit trilogy. No one likes hobbits. I'm sorry, people. They're maybe the least favorite character in Lord of the Rings, next to dwarves.
You know what Smeagol is, Michael?
What was the Hobbit all about? Dwarves and hobbits. The least favored, let's say, ethnicities or races or whatever you want to do in Lord of the Rings. I don't know the PC version of this.
It's definitely not that.
But what I mean is, it's the IP's been mishandled so many times since the actual movie came out. And what the adaptations have missed is like the actual texture of Tolkien's work. So the books aren't about spectacle, and that's really where Amazon failed. The books are about this like gritty peasants and their journey, faith, corruption, weight, the consequences of different actions. That's the like whole emotional power. Like people weren't watching the original Lord of the Rings trilogy and being like, this is awesome because of the spectacle. They were saying this is awesome because they saw Sam and Frodo literally like exhausted, starving, fighting for their last breath and then succeeding in the end. And that was how the emotional connection there was really created. And I personally think out of like all the different studios on the planet, Warhorse is one of the only studios that really understands that like gritty, muddy, like this is a down and dirty type of RPG. And the proof is in the idea of, I don't know if you guys know, but KCD2, it's a game about a peasant's blacksmith. It's a son who learned prayers, suffered from dysentery from eating bad meat, watches his entire village burn down, sucks at fighting with a sword until he's not bad at fighting with a sword. Like it's exactly the type of register that this studio can deliver, and that's exactly what we need for a real Lord of the Rings token style game that's dark and like satisfying for the actual real fans.
Omar, giving you the last word, bud.
Yeah, I don't know. You guys are just like talking so much, and none of you have mentioned the only reason people remember fucking Shadow of Mordor, which was the Nemesis system. Like, I think the game was great.
Mic drop.
But the one thing
Mic drop.
that we've literally been asking for is Warner Bros. To just give up, either like give rights or whatever, because I think the patent expires in 2030 something. So we're not going to see it for a very long time.
2036.
I hope. 2036. There you go. What a nerd, Michael, by the way.
Dude, he's bringing the stats, all of it today.
Yeah. One of us has to do it. Thanks, Michael. But no, I genuinely like. I hope they like make an effort to reach out and say, hey guys, can we, maybe figure something out and like bring this thing back? Because otherwise, like actually Nox said, it will just be a reskinned version of the game that they've already built. Which I mean, is still going to be a fun experience. But I think the magic of Shadow of Mordor was the Nemesis system, and if we have that back, then like we've got something on our hands that will keep us happy for the next 20 years, and maybe we don't need another Lord of the Rings, game, and Dub can get his fucking peak in Mordor or whatever friend slop game that he wants. But I genuinely think like it makes sense. It's a good move. The studio knows how to build, that type of RPG, gritty, not over the top. Just add a few elves and trolls and make them remember who you are, and you've got a peak game.
Peak plus Mordor would be the sickest collab of all time. I'm back on Dub train.
He redeemed himself for sure.
All right, we move on. Can Matthew Ball and company save Xbox? Xbox just hired Matthew Ball, the chief strategy officer. If you don't know the name, you know the work. He writes the annual State of the Video Gaming report. I promise I can read that half the industry cites every single January, I think it is, that comes out. He wrote the best-selling book on the metaverse, which is now largely criticized. He was head of strategy at Amazon Studios. He's a venture partner at Makers Fund, senior advisor at KKR, etc. They also brought in Scott Van Vliet as CTO, coming from Azure, OpenAI, Microsoft Teams, and Amazon's gaming divisions. Xbox CEO Asha Sharma is restructuring the entire organization. They brought in about 5 new C-suite folks in total, Ball himself said he's quote unquote pretty frightened by rising memory and storage costs hitting the console business. So he's walking in with eyes wide open about the structural problems. The question here is, what are the odds that Matthew Ball actually can turn Xbox around? Do you believe in an analytics driven, data literate hire that the gaming console space has ever made? But Xbox's problems probably go beyond what it looks like to just stare at numbers and provide solutions. A lot of the criticisms that we've had is that Xbox feels out of touch with actual native gaming. Do you believe in a bunch of AI people plus one guy that does a bunch of data analytics around the games industry to actually turn this around? What are the odds that they're the solution? Michael, starting with you.
So I really think the answer kind of just depends on what you mean by save. If you mean Xbox sells more consoles than PlayStation again, the odds are probably like 20% that happens, maybe lower, because PlayStation has such a foothold. The Xbox Series S and X had sold like 34.299 million units lifetime against PS5's 90 million units. So that's 20.7% of the market share, which shrinks about 2.9% every year. So if the idea here is like, what are they saving? I mean, are they saving their reputation with their fans? Because obviously they've made a lot of really terrible moves over the last 3 years that I know Knock is absolutely taking victory laps about. Or like, so it really just, it comes down to, what do you mean by save it, and what is their ultimate goal here? Phil Spencer spent 7 years trying to solve Xbox's content problem, and now Microsoft owns Call of Duty, Diablo, Doom, Elder Scrolls, Halo, Forza, Gears, and Minecraft. But the console, still loses. So it really just depends on what their future plans are for the console. If it was content, then they have no problem. But I don't think content was really ever the problem. So let's see what an AI guy can do. But I don't know if there's anything that you can like actually save here, depending on other than maybe reputation.
Knock is a certified hater of this onboarding. Let's go. Knock, give me the odds.
The odds that he saves it himself, 10%. The odds that he's part of a team that saves Xbox, I'll give him a 50-50 shot, man. I said, I have been the biggest hater of Xbox, maybe in this panel, and definitely that I know, for the better part of the last 5 years. I said all that Asha needed to do was not be Phil Spencer, and instead of just not being Phil Spencer, I think she's done an incredible job bringing on an executive team who really know how to speak to gamers and how to run a gaming business. You've got Matthew Ball, who just came on. You've got a guy who came from Azure. And then prior to that, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he worked in the gaming space. He was announced alongside Asha as CEO. And I think what she's done is realize, I know how to build systems. I know how to run businesses. I know how to create monetization streams. But what I don't know are these 2 or 3 things. And she's hired very well to fill the gaps in her own knowledge and her own source. And I think that that's something that Phil Spencer never did. Look, we saw what it looks like when somebody who's spent 40 years in the gaming industry built Xbox. And what that looks like is Xbox, becoming a dumpster fire. And instead, We're seeing somebody in Asha hiring a bunch of people who seem to be very competent. I think Matthew Ball is an excellent member of that team. What he's not going to do is solve Xbox's problems by themselves, but what he can do is help Xbox to understand what they're not and where they should double and triple down on streams that make sense, and lead with that intuition that we've seen every year in January on the knowledge that he has on the gaming industry holistically. I think Asha is going to listen to the things that he has to say, and I think that she's going to execute on the plan that makes the most sense for Xbox as a whole. I'll give him a 50-50 chance of saving that brand, but it's not going to be because of Matthew Ball. It's going to be because of Asha.
Peyton, what do you think, buddy? What are the odds that this is able to turn around? And is it appropriate to basically get 4 people that have nothing to do with games whatsoever, and then one guy that just cites a bunch of statistics about games, and then expect them to run a gaming company? Like, it feels like a parody almost.
Yeah, he's walking so we can run, Sam. So we could possibly get into those positions in the future. But like in terms of that, I would say that like I feel like, you know, I've obviously been very into the NBA. I feel like this is the preseason conversation about the Houston Rockets, which had an early 1-round exit because Kevin Durant had a burner phone. I feel like the Şengün, like Amen Thompson, like all of these people are like really great on paper. I just don't think Xbox can have a fight in this. Like, and this is coming, and everybody on this panel can attest. I am the biggest Xbox fanboy there is. There's just like no hope. And maybe I am the bottom signal here in terms of that stuff. But like they've traded away like all the IP. They have the Game Pass and all that stuff. There's just like, and Sony now is going to be bringing things back in-house, which is another topic for us. I just feel like Xbox has a long way to climb. And I feel like it's getting ready to like really, they don't really care about Xbox, I think, moving forward. And that's been something for a while. And I don't know if this team is just there to be able to bring it to the next step of like Xbox being, I don't know, sold or whatever it is. But I don't know. That's my take on it. And I just wanted to do a Houston Rockets parallel.
It kind of reeks of either desperation or a pivot. And I just can't quite tell which one. Kate, over to you.
I feel like it's not desperation, but it is very interesting and surprising. It's surprising. I think like when Asha got her role, there was a crazy amount of people questioning her credentials and questioning her background and questioning her eligibility for the job. If she had been a guy, I don't think that would have happened. So there was a lot of just like straight up sexism toward her. And I think it's also because she looks young as well. Like, I think like younger women in positions of power, really are not taken seriously by the corporate world, which sucks. Even if you have a lot of experience. She worked as a VP of product engineering at Meta and a bunch of other places. So I think like, why not bring new fresh blood in to shake things up is kind of what I would say. It's like, why not? I don't think it's a Hail Mary. I think it's actually good and shows that Microsoft, this kind of old stalwart of the tech world, is like willing to be a little bit more risk taking and a little more, willing to get out of its kind of position that it's been in for so long as this. It has this reputation as this kind of risk averse, sort of skewing older and more careful, cautious entity compared to, other tech companies in the space. So I think it's good news. And with Matthew, I interviewed him back in 2022 about the metaverse, and something that I think about Matthew that's very interesting. Obviously, the metaverse is a complete and utter like nothing burger, right? Like, it had its moment, it had its boom, it boomed, it flopped, it became it's kind of irrelevant today. It's like, well, now we continue to game as we always have. And those are our metaverses, are the MMOs and things like that. But with Matthew, I think he's really good at selling himself, right? He has a background in consulting. Before that, his LinkedIn is also very interesting. If you look at Matthew's LinkedIn, it's a little bit like, what is this everything? Because there's just a bunch of different roles, and he got into investing and being a VC, so consulting, investing, things like that. So I don't think either of them are the make it or break it factor for Xbox, because I just think that PlayStation is doing just a lot more. But I do think that this will be good for them. I think they can only go up because I think it's already kind of at the bottom for Xbox right now.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Omar, I'm going to you. We've debated the Asha hiring in the past. Surprisingly, the panel was actually net bullish. People seemed optimistic about it, but there was kind of a assumption that she would surround herself with gaming people. And I think part of the surprise here is now we have 4 more non-gaming people also in the C-suite alongside of her, and then one guy that's like a games industry person, but definitely not considered a gamer. And so it sort of stacks on top of that concern that they already had that this is just going to be farmed for AI slop or something along those lines. How do you sort of consolidate those things, and what do you think the odds are that they're able to turn this around?
I'm going to say 2 things. I'll just use you as my guinea pig. Sam, what's your favorite game of all time?
World of Warcraft, probably.
Do you know the name of the person that fucking made World of Warcraft? Like literally made it?
There's probably like a dozen people you could credit it with, but I would say Mike Morhaime.
I think we have this obsession with, like, when Asha first came in, everyone was talking about her background and how she works in AI, and she's going to turn this into like an AI slop thing or whatever. And then she ended up actually cleaning up, and everyone's happy with the price of Game Pass going down. And it seems like her decisions are great, but like, are they her decisions? Are they someone else's decisions? Were you right to be worried about her in the first place? Like, do you think that Matthew is going to make a huge difference on his own? Like, all these things, I think, in the grander scheme of things, don't matter. Realistically speaking, I think there's probably like thousands of people within Xbox that have gaming experience, and they're probably all chiming in. And it's not going to be this one dude that comes from a consulting background that would be like, this is how we're going to beat Sony, and like 1, 2, 3. Like, it's not a Steve Jobs Apple situation where like the person is the brand or the person is the company. It's just another employee. It's just another name. I think they're fighting an uphill battle. I'll go back to what Nox said. It's probably a 50-50 chance. Like, because it's Matthew, it doesn't make it a 70 or it doesn't make it a 30. It's just, they're hiring more people, maybe from different backgrounds, maybe with different intentions, maybe with different, kind of forward thinking, I guess, roadmaps. But realistically speaking, at the end of the day, Xbox's problem is why Peyton is like not happy as an Xbox gamer, right? Like that's the Xbox problem. It's,
True.
What's happening with the IP? What are you doing with Halo? What's going on? Why are we sharing everything with Sony when Sony's not, willing to share with you anymore? Like, that's Xbox's problem. It's not, is Matthew the one behind the helm? Is, Asha going to drive us? Like, it's such a I think if she did not have an AI like background or experience, you'd never hear her name. It would just be like, appoints new CEO, blah, blah, blah. But just because she comes from an AI background, everyone's like, this is going to be the worst thing ever. Xbox is going to die, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, man, I think it's a 50-50. It doesn't matter. Like, the name, in the end of the day, the name doesn't matter. The name will only matter if they actually manage to win this uphill battle. Then we'll remember who Matthew was.
Yeah, listen, I think it's unfair to say that she's not surrounded by gaming execs. Let's make it very clear. Matt Booty is still there, and he's actually been promoted to run content and first-party platforms within the Xbox system. Matt Booty was one of the only people in the previous executive team that was competent to any degree. And again, the conversation that, hey, this isn't a team that comes from gaming experience, they're going to fail. Let's make it very clear. Xbox is in the position that they are in because of the decisions that Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond made, and they came from the gaming industry. Phil Spencer alone had more years within gaming than Asha has in life, right? And I think that it is something to say that just because you come from a space does not mean that you know how to operate within that particular space. And I think that we saw very clearly that Phil Spencer did not know how to operate. You look at Matt Booty, you've got Matthew Ball, who understands the gaming space more holistically. You've got Scott Van Vliet, who did have exposure in gaming. He did work with Microsoft and Mattel and a couple of these other small experiences around gaming. So he's not a complete gaming novice. And then you tie it all in with a guy like Craig Duncan, who's going to be leading Xbox Game Studios, who does come from the gaming space. I think what you've seen now is a woman who's built a team around executing. The team there knows how to scale businesses, they know how to scale revenue, but more importantly, they know how to build organizational structure. And then on top of that, they filled in gaming decision roles with people who come from the gaming space. I think you see somebody who is an excellent operator operating excellently, at least in her so far through her tenure. Now, that doesn't mean that she's going to do right by the space, but it does mean that she has done everything that she's needed to do since she was introduced. And I think Matthew Ball is a great piece to help guide the team into what direction the next stage of Xbox looks like. He's a great add to a team that I think is a great team. I think that they've got a chance here. But again, just because they didn't come from gaming doesn't mean that they're going to fail. Xbox is in the position that they're in because they were too gaming heavy.
Dub put in our internal chat here. Feels like Xbox got the Justice League whenever everybody wanted the Avengers, which is pretty good. We're going to move on from this one. Sony goes full PS5 exclusive and kills their PC ports. Herman Hulst held a town hall with the PlayStation staff. The message was single-player first-party games are staying PS5 exclusive. No more Steam ports. Omar celebrating this for some unapparent reason because it just means he I don't know, he gets to play stuff that his friends will not be able to play with him. Maybe I'm not sure
because he already bought the PS PlayStation, so he needs to have something to play on.
Yeah, he got some Sony stock. Since 2020, Sony has been going the other direction. Horizon Zero Dawn on PC, God of War on PC, Ghost of Tsushima on PC. That strategy is done. Multiplayer and live service titles will still come to PC, but the marquee story-driven games stay on PlayStation hardware now. This is a direct reversal of a 6-year trend, and it comes right on the top of episode 160, where Chris argued Steam is becoming the platform for core gaming, and Koji said that PlayStation will win in the long run. Buy or sell Sony pulling back from PC? Give me your buy or sell first, then we'll dive into why. Michael, going to you.
I'm going to sell.
I'll buy, but also sell.
I think this news sucks, but I think it'll be good for Sony. So I'm buying.
Yeah, I was going to same thing as Kate.
I think when there's war, the arms dealer makes money, so I'm buying Sony.
Omar, I can only guess from the 700 emojis that you spammed since we started this topic. Are you buying or selling?
Definitely buying, brother. Definitely buying. I'm putting the house down. I'm putting everything down. I'm buying that shit.
Since you seem so passionate about this one, I'm sending it to you first.
Yeah, I think what Xbox is trying to do with Game Pass doesn't make any sense for Sony. Shut the fuck up, Nog. I think in a world where Steam wasn't making their own console, I think it would have been okay to keep porting games over to PC. I think now it just makes no sense when they're very visibly going to enter the market and compete with you on a console level to just keep sharing games with them, because the likelihood of that happening the other way around is a lot harder. If you look at some of the PC games and you wanting to port them over to console, the games you'd want to port are probably like too hard to port into a console, right? So for me, I think Sony going back to basics and focusing on what they always did best, which was, get a good IP running, make a great franchise, push out a bunch of games, and then maybe like reallocate or make a new IP or whatever. Like, I think that's what made Sony so powerful. And like them going back to that, at least to me, indicates that they're not going to keep chasing the live service bullshit that they tried and, didn't work. They're going to at least try and go back to like, okay, we need good IP so it can be exclusive, so we can run it only on PlayStation. And then that will make more people buy PS5s and PS6s and PS whatever that's going to come out. I think the first two games I heard were Ghost of Yotei and Marvel's Wolverine. Like, those were the ones that were supposedly going to PC. And they're like, no, that's not going to happen anymore. Like, I know a lot of friends that were waiting for Ghost of Yotei to come on PC. If that's not going to happen, you're going to have to buy PS5, or you don't, right? But in the end of the day, it's like a game they're willing to pay because they're betting on their IP and their studios and everything that they have done so well in the past. And I think Sony, like Xbox, was straying away for the past couple of years, where they were kind of just losing focus and they were doing a bunch of random shit. This to me is a good signal. That's why I'm excited.
Omar is saying the Gabe Cube is the reason that this is no longer. This is why we can't have nice things anymore. Michael, do you agree?
No. And the reason for this that I don't agree, as a gamer, if I'm being honest, I actually love it. I love the console wars. Let's lock everything. Let's silo it. You choose your console. You choose your death. But from a pure monetary standpoint, it doesn't make sense to me. If you look, PlayStation Studios on Steam has done about 1.5 billion in cumulative revenue across 43 million different units. In 2023 alone, they did about 300 million, which was 6 times their own internal projections of 50 million that year. God of War on PC did 150 million. Spider-Man Remastered did 116 million. Helldivers 2, the potential blot in this whole plan, did 13 million on PC and only 5 million on Xbox. On PlayStation. But that shouldn't be what kills this whole, hey, we're sending things to PC, because they're literally making so much money on the games that they own that they're sending to PC. What we really should see happening is, instead of this siloed gaming decision, we should just see delayed titles coming to this PC after the PlayStation cycle has already ended. So, we've seen that in the past on a lot of different games where, 18 to 24 months following the initial release, that's when they start to port over to other consoles, other platforms, etc. And so I don't really see why they would lose all of this revenue as a company by trying to keep it in-house versus just having an exclusive title happening on their own machine for that 18 to 24 month cycle, and then allowing it to be playable on PC, because it's just been such a moneymaker for them. It doesn't make any sense. And I think if we see Naughty Dog this year, whatever they reveal, if it's on PC, you'll know that PlayStation has slowly killed this policy without anybody actually knowing about it.
Man, that Horizon trailer that we just played was sick. I've actually never seen that before, so shout out to Len for grabbing that. What I noticed, though, is at the very end, it goes PlayStation exclusive. And then the very next screen that they show is play has no limits. After explaining the limit that they're putting on play, which has to be the most immediate irony I've seen in a minute. Peyton, I'm going to you, and then, or sorry, Dub, I'm going to you, and then do Kate.
Yeah, like I completely agree with Omar that this is amazing for business. Like I said before, I think war is just great for everyone here, especially on the console wars. It feels like we were in like this 5-year like heavenly area where everything was available no matter where you were to play. And now that's got to go because we can't have an industry without having war, apparently. And I think this just sucks for the gamers, like, because I'm never going to buy a PlayStation. I'll die before I buy one of those things. And like, there's games I'm not going to be able to play now, and that's just the nature of the beast, I guess. But I think overall this sucks for, guys like me who want to be able to play everything, but overall probably better for Sony's pockets.
Don't say it like that, Dub. Don't say for guys like me. Oh, I can't afford a PS5. That's why guys like me are not going to be able to play.
It's a pride thing.
On food stamps while he's snowboarding and trading Bitcoin on a 1000x leverage. Kate, tagging you in. Why are you buying / selling this one?
Yeah, it's super interesting because we don't yet know for sure whether this is a good move for business, obviously, but we do know that there is a good chance that hardware will continue to become commoditized, especially with AI chip demand and kind of the broader landscape around the hardware industry. Like PlayStation, these console executives have said that they're not sure how much further these game consoles can actually be advancing. So it's not like there's going to be a new PlayStation for you to buy every couple years. And so that might seem like a reason to make things exclusive if there was going to be a new PlayStation every couple of years, like the iPhone. But I actually think that argument also works if there's not going to be a new PlayStation in the coming years, because once the technology is kind of all sitting on this same playing field of like, no one can say, oh, hey, we have 10K, 14K, blah, 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 resolution, blah, 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 ray tracing, this and that, like AI powered, blah, blah, blah. Like once that starts to feel commoditized, people will be like, okay, well, like I'm just going to do it all on my PC or wherever I want to be. And making this exclusive forces your hand. It makes you say, okay, I have to buy this thing that's commoditized and that's like the exact same as my, PC that I built. And so now I have to just spend more money to get this PS5, or, be in Dub's situation and just kind of give up on a whole realm of potential games. But ultimately, this is super interesting to me. I think there's a parallel with streaming services that we're going to see, where in Hollywood, you have Netflix originals, you have Amazon originals, you have HBO originals, and it's all about like the content being the differentiator as opposed to the hardware being the differentiator that forces you to pay for extra stuff. So I see a lot of parallels between gaming and Hollywood and the way that things are kind of shaking out, especially as Hollywood gets increasingly taken over by the tech industry. So yeah, the content is becoming the differentiator here. And I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, it's a great point there. Let's go over to Peyton now.
Yeah, I also just like think that the tax is like it doesn't really make sense for Sony and like the Steam tax. And now what also Omar said, it's like 30% also, right? And then we've also seen trends this last couple years, and probably you look at the new Zoo report and all that stuff. Steam is selling those at like $30 and below type of ones. So Sony also doesn't make sense for Sony. It's like, yo, I'm putting a lot of money into this, and then also porting it over to PC optimization for all of these types of PCs. And then you just like don't get as much juice as you probably do for that squeeze. And just like, you know what? Let's just get everything back and let's just go Sony. Let's make it also single player. So to Kate's point, as the hardware, maybe gets cheaper over time too, because they're not releasing it every single 2 months or 2 years. They're able to then like have a game that is like, if you pick up God of War, like today, like it's still a great experience. Right. And so like, that's also something that they probably are looking at. It's like, hey, a lot of our sales are for like GTA still breaks records, years later, because it's fundamentally a great single player game. Not a lot of people are playing it for like GTA Online, Red Dead Redemption 2 as well. Like those games are phenomenal, right? And same thing for God of War and all that stuff, even though it hates for me to say it in front of Omar. But yeah.
Let's go over to Knock and then to Omar.
Yeah. Can anybody name me a single time in history where starting wars and closing your borders to trade and open play has ever hurt anybody ever? Oh, right now in the United States, is that what we're saying? Listen, this is stupidity, man. Listen, nothing in the world to me screams move up a position of power like closing your doors and stopping everybody from playing the things that you are delivering. This is stupidity. Is it a good thing? The reason why I said buy and sell is because I actually agree in part. This will be a great thing in the short term. Right? Hey, maybe you sell a couple more consoles. Maybe you deliver a couple of exclusive titles that make people want to buy some PS5s. Maybe this is a short-term boon for PS6. But in no business anywhere on the planet does closing the door and decreasing your TAM increase your profitability and the health of your overall company. This is stupidity. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle. It's already out. Crossplay is a thing. Being able to play on any platform with your friends is a thing. Isolating players and forcing them to make a decision of everywhere else or with you is stupidity, because everywhere else is clearly the answer. And we're starting to see some capitulation in the real life example of a market that did this in the United States, opening up a lot of the tariffs and issues that they applied to countries all across the globe. So for me, this is dumb. You've had crossplay for 6 years. You've seen the boon. At the end of the day, a man who looks at me and says, I would rather have 0% of 0 versus 70% of 100, that's an idiot. That's a dumb person who's not going to be in charge for very long. That's what's happening here.
Knock just kept doubling down more and more as Omar spammed more clown emojis. Real quick, listen, Knock, before I go to him to eviscerate you, I'm sure. My question to you would be then, why should I get a PlayStation? Like, what would you replace with what they're trying to recreate with exclusivity? What would be the thing you would suggest?
I think building better games and having more people purchase the games is a net positive. You can't replace anything.
All right, Omar, I'm muting Knock. I'm using the mute for the first time. Knock,
brother, you are fighting your own demons. You're saying the same thing and then you're arguing against it. The reason they're not selling more PlayStations is their games are now available on other devices. I did some math homework because Michael is making all of us look bad. What am I waiting for?
Oh, you got muted for a second. That wasn't me though. That was the internet connection. Go ahead, Omar.
I was gonna say I did some math homework as well. Nintendo makes 81% of their revenue from first-party publishing. So the games that they don't share with the rest of the world. Right? They don't give you the Super Marios. They don't give you any of that shit. They keep it on Nintendo, right? So that's your first argument. The second argument is PS5s are selling at a way lower and slower pace than previous consoles. No one has to buy a PS5 because you can just play the same shit everywhere else. Why would you buy a PS5 if you can play Spider-Man on your PC? Why would you buy a PS5 when you can play God of War on your PC? You're talking about crossplay. Crossplay is not what this is. This is not EAFC is only going to be on PlayStation. This is God of War, Marvel's Wolverine, Spider-Man. Like, these IPs are only going to be on PlayStation. You can still do crossplay. You can still play Call of Duty. You can still do whatever the fuck you want to do crossplay. So you're still going to have that ecosystem being open. The difference is they need to sell more consoles. So they're going to keep the games exclusive to their console because they know that Steam is now coming out with their own console. And Xbox clearly just threw the white flag, and they're like, we'll give you whatever you want. Just put our games on your console. So you, as much as I love you, Knock, don't make any sense there, because you're saying, oh, you're going to make less money by forcing people to buy the console, but you're going to make more money on the console because you're going to sell more consoles. And then you're saying, oh, what's it going to take? Oh, you have to build better games. Well, the games are already great. We're just sharing them with everyone. I say we as Sony, but like, it's just, you can play Spider-Man on every device. That doesn't make sense because you don't have to buy PS5 anymore. So sorry, but I got a bit emotional there. Knock, I still love you. But yeah, I felt like you were fighting your own demons, bro. I had to step in.
I was told that play has no limits. Michael, go ahead, and then we'll circle back to Knock.
Yeah, so I think you have to take a look at what Sony's policy actually says here. Single player first party games go PS5 only. Multiplayer and live service games stay multi-platform. So Marathon, if there's a new Helldivers, Fair Games, the next Bungie shooter, the only thing that gets actually locked down here are titles like Ghost of Yotai or Soros or the next Naughty Dog game or the next single player AAA narrative. So single player AAA is the most expensive, slowest cycle, lowest margin category in modern gaming. Spider-Man 2 cost about $300 million to develop. Last of Us 2 was around $220 million to develop. Horizon Forbidden West was about $212 million to develop. Each one of those games needed to sell 8 to 12 million units at full price just to recover the dev costs. So adding the PC upside on those budgets, killing PC adds the risk to every single AAA game single player AAA game that Sony makes from here on out. Meanwhile, the live service titles that they produce basically make up 70% of their margins and generate year after year after year reoccurring revenue. Those stay on PC. So what Sony's really doing here is it's protecting its exclusivity on its own just AAA titles, but we've actually seen this happen before in history of gaming. Back in, I think it was like the early 90s, Sega did the exact same thing, and they had a much better content exclusive window than Nintendo did. Sonic, Virtua Fighter, NBA 2K. But in the end, they still lost the console war because they got platform economics wrong. Nokia lost in 2008 when they doubled down on their hardware versus the iPhone making it super easy for everybody. And this content exclusive strategies aren't how dynasties are extended. We've seen time and time again, it's actually how dynasties end. So to say that this is a good move by Sony from like a content play standpoint, I mean, it might sound good as like a good take, but the numbers tell a completely different story. And Sony locking down its most expensive category, leaving their most profitable projects on PC, and calling this a strategy is more so, hey, we like these games and we want them to only be for us. That's really what they're saying. There's not any kind of business strategy or sense that really backs this up when you get deep down into the numbers and into how this category grows in 2026.
Great stuff from Michael. I know Knock and Kate want to get back in. Knock visibly face palming. You know what? I'm gonna go to Kate first, then we'll circle back to Knock. Actually,
No, Knock. I want to hear what you have to say first.
All right, go ahead, Knock.
This is so fucking stupid on so many levels, but most importantly, if look, at the end of the day, if I close my eyes, you guys wouldn't be there, right? And it's the same thing that's happening here. If I don't look at any of the numbers or any of the stats, then none of this matters. But at the end of the day, Sony has made more money in PlayStation 5's era, so since 2020 on release, than in any previous era of Sony's existence. The PlayStation 2 sold 90 million more copies than the PlayStation 5, and Sony still made more fucking money in the PlayStation 5 era. Why? Because people buy fewer consoles today, and it's no longer just a console business. There are other ways to make money. Sony made an intelligent decision in opening the doors and allowing for sales on other platforms in 2020 with the PS5 era, and it's the reason why it's the highest grossing era in Sony's history. Closing the thing that made them more money than any other thing prior to that is fucking stupidity. Forget about your fanboyism. Forget about tribalism. Forget about the fact that you like PlayStation more than Xbox. This is coming from the president and the fucking founder of the Xbox Hater Club for the last 5 years on this show. The most important thing that Sony has done, consequentially to business, to their financials, has been opening up their games to any platform ever. There is no arguing it. There is no disputing it. It is an absolute fact that Sony has made more money on 90 million fewer sales from a console perspective in the PS5 era. Closing those doors is fucking stupidity. It is a defensive maneuver because they are selling fewer consoles, and they don't yet know how to transition the business into a business that is console second instead of console first. That's the only reason they make this decision. Full stop.
Stop giving him this.
There's never been a more accurate statement from Knock right there. Coming with numbers, coming with stats. Knock, you and I are not, we don't operate on emotion. We operate on hard statistics.
I'm pretty sure Knock is pretty emotional right now. Let me just say
Oh, buddy, listen. I'm emotional because on one side, we got fucking, tatted.md spitting out information over here. On the other
You're
side,
goddamn right.
Omar, who is Omar's operating purely on emotion. And I'm trying to thread the needle between, regardless of what you like, Sony has made more money in the era of open doors than they have in any other previous era. There's no reason for them to close those doors.
Knock, I'm gonna ask
They
you a serious question.
they don't call me Michael Claude Christine for nothing.
Speaking of AI, speaking of AI, and I guess some folks are making no mistakes with Claude at the moment, but this is the thing, right? Is we there is a very good chance that there will be a significant reckoning with the film industry and with the video game industry when it comes to the cost of production. Right now, we are watching the movie studios try to cut back significantly on the cost of production, and they are exploring AI. And the video game studios, I think, are doing a lot of the same. So I think these 200 million budgets, they are probably going to come down unless we see another sort of frothy economy for gaming, which it does not appear to be that we're in that. It appears to be that we're in this slightly cold market where sales are down. Xbox sales are down. Let's see, what does it say? 2026 fiscal year Q2, Xbox hardware revenue declined 32% year over year. Overall Xbox gaming revenue declined 9% year over year. PlayStation was not in as bad of a situation. I think they're down about 4%. So ultimately, gaming is in this contraction moment. And I don't think it's a bad idea what they're doing. I think they are recognizing that they have these prestige original titles and they want to keep those to the Sony PlayStation for the best experience or for whatever kind of, reasons they have. But I think I just think that's really important to consider, is that the hardware landscape is changing. AI adoption and the way that AI is going to lower production costs is changing. So I don't think they're shooting themselves in the foot at all here. And I think it's super interesting to see. And, these PlayStation games being available to PC users hasn't, I don't know. I just don't think it's going to change in a negative way for them. I think it's the move. I think it's what they have to do.
Knock, I know you wanted more clarification, and then we're going to go to Omar.
Sam, let me ask you this question.
Hit me.
The price of hardware is increasing. Consoles are becoming prohibitively expensive. Okay.
They are.
People are buying fewer consoles every single year over year, demonstrably for the last 10 years. Yeah.
There's a lot of statements. Yeah.
Okay. Do you A, diversify and find ways that people play your game, or do you B, attempt to sell more consoles? Which one of those two things sounds like a better plan to you?
It's not about selling consoles. It's about
argument here is selling consoles.
It's the vibes.
It's not about selling consoles, because these consoles have such a long lifetime now. They're not releasing every year like the iPhone.
But if it's
right?
not about selling consoles, then the argument makes even less sense, because if you can sell at one marketplace or three, there is no world in which you choose one.
Facts. And the numbers back it up. They made so much money in the PC market. It doesn't make any sense. That's why I say that this is just a vibes play. This is literally just Sony being like, we love the vibes here. This makes no business sense at all. Let's lock it down, baby. We're back. It doesn't make any sense though.
I'm still stuck on Omar though, saying that he thinks this is a side effect of the GameCube and becoming competitive on sort of your home TV. That does seem like a pretty reasonable argument that you have to hedge against
Yeah.
the future of they're going to encroach on your territory. I also, part of the reason that I don't have a PlayStation 5 still is because everything I want is on my PC, but I would have spent that $600 pretty much under any other circumstance if they hadn't been letting me do that for the last few years. Omar, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been accused of being emotional, so I'm going to come with stats this time around.
Rein it in, Omar.
Adjusted for inflation, the best-selling year ever for Sony PlayStation by both total hardware units and gross revenue is 2002, which was driven by the PlayStation 2. So, Knock, shut the fuck up. We know how inflation works.
Omar,
Wait, I'm not done.
inflation, everybody's best year ever was 25 fucking years ago because
Yeah, so then
inflation has run rampant. That
come
is
here
a
and tell me.
stupid stat.
Yeah, but don't come here and tell me, oh, PlayStation's making so much more money with the PS5 because the games are being shared when adjusted for inflation, technically they're making less money. So that's point number one. Point number two, going back to you, Michael, because you were talking about how, oh, it's, more players and why would you, limit it and it's just vibes. I'm just going to give you some numbers. So more recent PlayStation ports have generally seen smaller PC shares. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart only has 8% PC share. Horizon Forbidden West, 7%. God of War Ragnarok, 6%. Marvel Spider-Man 2, 5%. Ghost of Tsushima is the notable exception at 11% PC share. So if you're talking about single digits, right? Like realistically speaking, you're maybe like 5-9% at most getting PC players on this IP. Why wouldn't you just take the risk and sell more consoles and make that an exclusive thing? If realistically speaking, they're not contributing as much as, you guys are. You guys are making it seem like, oh, Sony's making 100 million, and as soon as they shut this down, it's going to be like 5 million. Bro, it's like 5 to 10%.
I mean, that's kind of the point.
Revenue.
They're making more money with it being on PC than they're not.
Between Horizon Zero
know.
Dawn, Helldivers, and God of War, Sony made like an additional $1 billion on literally just
Yeah.
what the fuck are we talking about? We're talking about
Helldivers is multiplayer though, so this is
I
just talking
understand that,
about
but
single player.
but the point is like closing
Correct.
the door to anything at all. Like we're talking about 5 and 10% revenue, an additional boost in sales, as if it is nothing. Every company on the planet is trying to find 1 or 2 additional percentage points. The idea that they would sell an additional 10% of copies on PlayStation or on Steam, but only because it's 10%, we don't care about it, doesn't make any sense either, because everybody is trying to find a way to edge out an additional 10% in revenue. Like the idea that Sony is hedging against the idea that Sony's hedging against the Steam machine for a company who previous console has sold less than like the Game Gear, which all 7 of us on this panel don't know what that is. I just saw the number on the list of all-time sales. Is fucking crazy. The console's not out, and it's going to cost $1,000. And at that point, I'm buying a PC.
Yeah, that's the point of hedging.
We understand that you're upset about this news, but it doesn't mean that you're right.
Can I just say I owned a Game Gear Notch, so I don't take that disrespect.
Yeah, not like again. I'm telling you again. I can be wrong, right? This is just my take on it. I think Gabe's gonna do some shit with his new console, right? Xbox is very willingly just giving up their IP. Sony needs something, right? And if that something is not good enough, they're just simply not going to sell enough PS6s, and we're going to have a very different conversation. So the logical thing is you don't take any of the cross-platform multiplayer games away. You keep those open. But then you look at the Ratchet & Clanks, you look at the Horizons, you look at the God of Wars, and maybe you take a cut of billions of dollars, but then you maybe make billions off of that because more people have to buy a PS5. Look at Sam, look at Dub, all the people that have not bought a PS5, and they're literally telling you because I don't have to. Once you have to, it's a different conversation. That's all I'm saying.
Still bought the game.
Listen, I would rather play Ghost of Tsushima on my like 85-inch 4K OLED TV than on my PC. And we have
Wait
both.
until we find out that the same fucking cables that plug into your PlayStation also plug into your PC. They're the same.
Yeah, but I don't. So you're saying I should just bring my PC to my TV room and play on the TV?
I bought
That won't work with my graphics card. It's
lost the plot, but I have to tell you guys that I did buy a 60-foot long HDMI cable, so I could do that.
Yeah, well, that was a very spicy topic. I didn't expect it to be so spicy. It's time for our MVP votes. I'm sending it to Omar first. Omar, I'm curious after the last few rounds of what you think. Who's your MVP?
I think my MVP is Kate. because she had some great takes, especially that Netflix, HBO, Amazon one. I think there are a lot of parallels, and yeah, it's good to have that refreshing context and perspective. So I'll give it to Kate.
Yeah, that refreshing anybody but knock content. I love it. Kate, over to you. Who's your MVP? Kate, who's your MVP?
Well, I was gonna say it's Omar, so I guess it's the feeling's mutual. You got the MVP. I think
Mic drop.
You didn't bring emotion to the table like some Knox did today, and you came with the data, and I think that's very important.
Mic drop.
You know, I believe in facts.
The wrong data.
Dub, who you got? Who's your MVP?
Oh man.
Oh, dude, it's definitely Omar, dude. Absolutely crushed it. Put Knock in his place, which I just love to see, dude. It just feels I'm leaving this happy.
Knock, who you got, bud?
Listen, very honorable mention to Kate. I think one brought a bunch of really great takes and was stirring the pot. I appreciate the diving into the shit taking deep end here. But my MVP is gonna be Omar. Had a lot of great points, brought a lot of data. He wrote it himself, but the data was there. I'm giving it to Omar.
I love it. Peyton, who you got, bud? Who's your MVP?
For that last segment, it's a half a point to Knock and a half a point to Omar. That was hilarious. I will watch that back for years. As to know who's going to win that argument.
The first 50-50 MVP vote in 161 episodes. Michael, who's your MVP, bud?
I'm giving it to Knock. It's the first time he's come with both facts and emotion. So it was nice to see. Normally it's just the emotion with absolute asinine takes. So I love to see it this time.
That makes our MVP of the day, the return of the Mac. It's Omar. Got him. Congratulations.
Can I just say something real quick, Sam? What's that Michael's Claude is like honorable mention, right? At this point.
Absolutely. The real MVP of the match.
Omar, take us away, bud.
What am I supposed to do? I forgot. I haven't been on these in a while.
Plug Games GG. Say nice things about your fellow panelists, etc.
Oh yeah.
Omar.
I love you, Knock. I miss this. Thank you for bringing that same energy that I remember back. This is the first Gamified I don't do in my PJs in bed since it's like 2 a.m. So it's been a fun experience. No, nothing to plug. I think, yeah, thanks for a great chat. And I'll just plug everyone else and everything else that you guys are doing. So
all of it.
Check out everyone else on the screen.
Check them all out. Games.gg. I still use it to this day for news and other resources. Appreciate it. You built one of the central hubs of the internet as far as I'm concerned as a games industry person. I appreciate that. Great to have you back on, Omar. We got to do it again soon. Kate also crushed it. Michael, great to have you back from Asia so you can be a little bit more awake. Peyton always bringing the enthusiasm. That cackle, dude, the cackle that Peyton has in the background of everything is just like, it feeds my soul. Dub also filling in for Koji, who bailed 9 minutes before the show. Boo! Everybody hates Koji now. Boo!
Yeah, I'll try better next time. Sorry.
And Knock flew all the way from Canada to be at my wedding this last week, which I really appreciated, dude. It was great to see you. I love all you guys. We'll see you back same time, same place for another episode of Gamified next week.
Send him back. Send him back. I hope they send him back.
Send him back over the border, dude. More talent for Koji.
We don't need that.